Today we're going to talk a little bit about everybody's interest in National Flooring Equipment's 110 volt grinder line. So we're going to talk a little bit about the comparisons between the Helix and the 8274-4. What are the value props of each machine and how to choose each machine. So the first question I get asked is, what's the biggest difference? Obviously there's a size difference and a weight difference. The Helix comes in at about 206 pounds and the 8274-4 comes in about 388 pounds. So this is a bigger, heavier machine. The next big difference is the 8274-4 is a true planetary 18.5 inch grinder. And the Helix is a passive planetary, which is about a 16 inch machine. So the Helix has two speeds. There's a switch on the front of the motor. We have a low speed and a high speed, and those speed selections are for your tooling. So if you're using PCDs or 1-inch carbides, you turn your speed down so it'll do a better job of removing the heavy materials without heating up. The 8274-4 is the only machine that's 110 volt on the market that is a variable speed, soft start machine, as well as my audience out here, you've all run into old 20 amp breakers that are pretty weak and they won't support 20 amps, or even in some cases you've gotten rural old buildings that are just 15 amps, and then there's other countries like our beloved Canadians that only have 15 amp breakers. The 8274-4 actually has a switch that can limit the machine to only drawing 15 amps, or you can flip it and allow it to pull 20 amps. This is an awesome feature if you run into that and struggle with that in the past. Instead of going to get a generator and looking for plan B, you could just switch this to 15, and the box actually limits the draw to 15 amps. Huge benefit. That brings up the question, well Dave, what about the Helix? Where does the Helix benefit me? Well, the Helix is actually a modular, very lightweight machine. The handle is designed to be disassembled just really quick by flipping these black knobs, and the handle comes off, and then a couple people can lift it, and then once you get to the job site, it just locks right back into place. Super easy. So 110 volt, and it is a passive planetary, but what you guys can see on this machine is, depending on what you're wanting to do and depending on how you're wanting to do it, this is what your grind and scrape deluxe plate looks like. And you can see it's passive planetary because as the large disc spins in one direction, your discs spin in the direction of least resistance. If you want to be more aggressive, you actually can really easily pull a pin and pull your 5-inch floating discs out, and you can mount your diamonds directly on the plate, so it's a little more aggressive. The pattern's a little more aggressive, but it makes your grinder more aggressive. So depending on what you're looking at doing, you can quick make that change. And you guys see how quick I did that? It's done. Oh, that was pretty cool. Who wants to see that again? It also comes with little mini couplers to protect and allow it to move and follow the contours of the floor. And one of my favorite features about the Helix is this little, very inexpensive plate. It's designed to break. It's only held in by 6 screws, and I can change it in a matter of minutes on a job. So if I hit a dock plate or a really high joint, or maybe a red head or an anchor bolt in the floor that was underneath some patch I didn't see, it protects your gearbox and the machine. It's a fantastic option. Both the Helix and the 8274-4 take the same tooling. You can use the same micro PCDs, 1-inch carbides, diamond tooling, polishing pads, brazed diamonds. The difference obviously is your head pressure with a heavier machine. With the Helix, you're only at 206 pounds, you're at 388 pounds with 8274-4. So you're gonna get, you actually can polish just like the big, huge grinding and polishing machines you see on the market. You can duplicate that in small areas or edges with an 8274-4. Obviously, it's gonna be slower than a bigger footprint and a higher head pressure grinder, but you could still do it. I've seen lots of guys polish rooms and houses, patios, garages with this machine, and the reflective shine and the light reflectivity is absolutely amazing with this machine. With the Helix, you could still polish, but it's not really designed to be a polishing machine. It's pretty lightweight for that. You probably are only going to get somewhere between a 200 and 400 polish. If you moved up in your polishing pads to 800s, 1500s, you wouldn't really see a change in the light reflection. There's not enough weight to create enough friction to increase the polish above about a 400. Speaking of weight, the Helix actually has removable weights in the front and in the back. You just pull a pin and lift them off. And if you took off the grind and scrape deluxe plate, there's actually a weighted plate on the bottom that you could remove, and then you just have to put your grind and scrape deluxe plate, your tooling holder plate, back on it. And with an 8274-4, one of my favorite things is just being able to tilt a weight on each side forward. And because of the weight of this machine, it's pretty amazing. I find that most of the time, just 2 weights forward is more than enough weight to accomplish what you're doing, whether it's grinding, prepping, or even polishing with pads. I tend to put all 4 weights down when I get to the 1500, 3000 step, and then I turn my speed all the way up just to get that really high light reflectivity. But being able to adjust these weights this easily is a nice feature of this machine. So when you're trying to consider the purchase of a Helix versus an 8274-4, what you want to look for is which features mean the most to you. Where do you get the most value? The Helix has a shroud that I can actually position left or right with a convertible shroud, so I can edge on either side going up or down the wall depending on how I want to set it up. The 8274-4 already gets you really close to the wall because the shroud is pretty thin. And the 8274-4 is definitely a variable speed soft start, which is a pretty big benefit, where your Helix is an on or off machine, but you still have the option of a slow speed with a switch or a high speed with a switch. So it's common I get a question, well, which machine, Dave, would you go with? A lot of times it just depends on what you're wanting to do. If you're wanting to prep and polish, you're probably going to lean toward an 8274-4. If you're more of just a prep contractor and you don't want to get on your hands and knees, dollar for dollar, the Helix is a fantastic machine. The value prop really helps cover the cost of the machine, and it's modular. You can take it apart, it's maneuverable. I could get this in a basement. This machine right here, I probably can't get this in a basement. At almost 400 pounds, it's too big for that. So look at your job scope, and not necessarily what you did last week, but what do you want to do next week or next month, or how you want to grow your business might help you determine if the Helix is the right machine for you or the 8274-4 is the direction you want to go.